No mai, haere mai. Welcome to another chat, live chat with Whānau a Plunket, where we're sharing practical parenting advice online. With the continuing COVID threat of COVID-19 in New Zealand, we thought what a great time to invite in one of the midwives to come in from the board of the College of Midwives to come and ask our questions. So in today's episode, we will be discussing the importance in protecting our pēpi, our hapu mamas, and our whānaus. So if you don't mind introducing yourself, Tale, take it away.
Kia ora koutou, Bulavinaka, na Yavangu ko Tale. I'm Tale Jackson. I am a midwife based in Hamilton, and I'm also a midwifery lecturer at AUT. And I'm the co-chair of Pacifica Midwives Aotearoa, our Pacific Midwives National Group, and I sit on the national board for the New Zealand College of Midwives as the Pacifica rep. Kia ora.
Excellent. Wow, welcome. We're really lucky to have you here today to ask some questions.
Thank you. It's lovely to be here.
Awesome. So if you're tuning in now and you've got some questions that you want to ask, please get in on the chat and it will come through to us and Tale will be able to answer those. Now, just to get started, let's start with the basics. Can you give us a good understanding of what the COVID-19 vaccine is?
Sure. So currently in Aotearoa we have the one vaccine, which is the Pfizer vaccine, is the brand of vaccine that we use here. It doesn't contain any of the live virus, so it's not a live vaccine, so you can't catch COVID from the vaccine. It won't cause you to get COVID. It's open to be received by almost all people apart from those under 12, so it's perfectly safe for those even in pregnancy and for those mama who are breastfeeding after they've had pēpi as well. It's really important that those who are receiving the vaccine have both of those doses to get that stronger immunity and to protect those around them as well for those vulnerable people around us who aren't able to get vaccinated at this time. Yeah.
Well, so you said that it's 2 doses. What is the recommended time frame? Because we've seen it go from 3 weeks up to 6 weeks and back to 3 weeks. So what is the recommendation at the moment for the time between your 2 doses?
So the recommended time frame is the 6-week gap is ideal in terms of the kind of greater protection. But I know there has been a drive just with the need to get the population vaccinated for that greater protection for us as a bigger community, that it is okay to get it anytime from 3 weeks at this stage as well.
Excellent. Now, if you've got a hapu mama who's wanting to come in and she's worried about what trimester is the best trimester to come and have her vaccinations, what would you say to the hapu mama or whānau on when was the safest and best time for her to come in?
I would say that any time throughout the pregnancy is safe for mama to get vaccinated. It's okay right up until pregnancy, and then of course even after that when they're breastfeeding, like when they've already had pēpi, but also if they're thinking about getting pregnant as well, it's a good time to have it prior to pregnancy as well.
Excellent. Now we do have a question in. So John has asked, how long will the 2 doses work to protect you? Very good question.
So John, great question. And 2 weeks after you've had your 2nd dose of the COVID vaccine, you will have full protection from the vaccine.
And how long will that work for? How long will that protection last?
Oh, well, I think that, there's a lot of talk about that at the moment, just with, because it's, I guess, we're getting different strains and that are likely to come through that we've seen happening overseas and that. So there could be a potential for needing booster doses of the vaccine later on. But at this stage, people are just having the 2 doses of the vaccine at this stage.
Excellent. In terms of if you've got a mum who is having her vaccines while she's pregnant, will her baby be immune when born because of mum's protection in pregnancy? Will those, immunity go through to the baby?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And what's been found from studies overseas is that when the mother does have the vaccine and then starts to produce those antibodies, that they are passed through to her baby in utero. So while the baby is still inside mum, the baby will receive those antibodies through the placenta. And then once the baby's born, and if the mother's breastfeeding as well, the antibodies will pass through the breast milk. So that's why it's so important, because, at this stage, the babies can't be vaccinated, but they will get that extra added protection through their mums, which is fantastic.
Excellent. In terms of, I've had some hapu mamas come and say that they have been having their whooping cough booster because that's recommended in pregnancy and for the whānau around the new pēpi. Is there any delay between having those vaccinations? So if you were to have your whooping cough and then you wanted to get your COVID-19.
Right, I'd have to look that up, Kelly, at this stage. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head, sorry.
Oh no, that's all good. Just another question to come in.
Yeah.
So we're here live on Facebook with Tale Jackson. So please get in with your questions about having your COVID-19 vaccine, particularly to cover your pēpi and your tamariki at home, your wider vulnerable whānau, and for hapu mamas if you've got any questions. It's definitely been a big one that's come up, that talking point for mums that are carrying their babies and making sure that it's, not going to harm their babies while they're pregnant.
Yeah, and I think that it's for me, it is about looking at that wider community and really thinking of how we can protect those who are vulnerable. So, like for me as a Pacifica midwife who works a lot within Pacific communities, it's about protecting our elderly and our young who are more vulnerable at this stage. And also, of course, our pregnant mama are more vulnerable as well. And we know that when they are vaccinated, that even if they do get COVID, they have the illness is not so severe, and including the hospitalisation and also for their babies, the care that they need as well if they contract COVID. Yeah.
Oh, we've got another question from John Smith. How does getting the COVID-19 vaccine protect the whānau? Good question.
So do you mean the whānau like as a whole? Do you mean, just that kind of that wider community protection? Is that what you're...
I'm guessing, it's just, like, say if I had said to you, Tala, you need to go and have this vaccination, and you've got like your 6-year-old and 7-year-old at home. I guess it's in that context of how you getting the vaccination is protecting them.
Right. So I guess that comes down to that collective immunity, which is going to protect all of the community. Like I said before, for those people who can't get the vaccine, like at the moment, those under 12, all of those who can get it and do have that ability, it's about us, I guess, doing our duty for that kind of, for the rest of our community so that we can have that collective immunity. The more of us who are protected against COVID, the better it will be for all people in Aotearoa, because we know that we want to get back to some sense of normality. Like, I know that our new normal will probably be quite different to what we had before, but I mean, for me as a Pacific person, it's about being able to gather with my family and to be able to do those things that we currently can't do. And if all of us together are doing our bit against COVID, which is using those tools that we've got, then these things like lockdowns are going to become, we're not going to be doing those so much as a line of defence, because we're going to have that protection from the vaccine, and that will then protect our wider whānau for those who can't get the vaccine. Yeah.
Excellent. Oh, we've got another question in from Linda. Is it safe to breastfeed after the vaccine?
Yes, it is, Linda. So you can have the vaccine when you are breastfeeding, and like I said before, the antibodies that you will produce after the vaccine will be passed through your breast milk to your baby, so we'll give them some level of protection against COVID as well. Yeah.
In terms of side effects after the vaccine, if you're breastfeeding and the immunity is getting passed through to your baby while you are breastfeeding, will they get side effects from the vaccine as well?
I think that that's unlikely, and often when babies have other vaccinations and that, when they have their childhood immunisations, we recommend continuing with that breastfeeding just for comfort, but also it's so important to keep up your breastfeeding, and often when babies are sick and that, they want to breastfeed more to soothe themselves and for comfort and for those protective elements of the breast milk as well. Yeah.
Awesome. We've got another question here from Nolan Edwards. How can we be reassured that no adverse reactions will be passed to our baby as we're breastfeeding? I want to get the vaccine, just not while breastfeeding. So yeah, obviously a big talking point for people in terms of the vaccine and breastfeeding.
Yeah, and I think that we're from Nolan, that we are looking at those benefits and how positive they are going to be for both you and your baby. So if you are waiting until after you've finished breastfeeding, you might be breastfeeding that pēpi for 1 or 2 years, and that's quite a long time when you think that getting that vaccine, the benefits that it's going to pass on to your baby straight away, and for that ongoing period, not only while you're breastfeeding, but beyond that, is so important. Yeah.
Excellent. Now we've just got a comment from Carla Kamo.
And
she said, Carla.
Yep, Carla. Carla. Carla's on the National Board of the New Zealand College of Midwives with me. So lovely.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now, we have another question here from Suala. Have test trials, case studies been done on vaccinating during pregnancy or whilst trying to conceive? Wow, that's a good question.
Well, I know that there have been studies done internationally, Suala, and have found that those women who were vaccinated were much less likely to contract COVID during pregnancy. And when they did, they were much hugely less likely to be hospitalised and have severe effects from COVID-19. I'm sure I could hunt down some studies for you that we could always post on the website later on, but I do have links to some of those. Yeah, but I'm not sure about whilst trying to conceive, but like I said before to Kelly, even if you're thinking about getting pregnant, it would be a really good time also to get that vaccine, just to protect yourself and your baby when you do conceive as well from the effects of COVID-19. Yeah.
Excellent. Is there any cost to this COVID vaccine if you are pregnant?
No, it's completely free, and as is all maternity care through the public system in Aotearoa. So it's free for everyone. And in fact, now there's some incentives for some people as well, depending on where they're going to get those vaccines. And I'm sure we're going to see a lot more of that this Saturday on the 16th of October on Super Saturday. And it's so easy now to find out where you can go, and there's so many providers, and even I know places where they're doing 24-hour, like around the clock vaccinations to accommodate those people who can't go during normal working hours. There's drive-through vaccination centres now. It's it's so accessible for everyone out there, and even buses that will go around to your house and vaccinate you in some parts of the country as well.
That's so awesome, isn't it?
Yeah.
We've got another question from Linda. Why are pregnant women more at risk of getting COVID or the flu?
Oh, kia ora, Linda. That's a great question. And when the body is pregnant, it kind of has this fluctuating state of where the immune system can be slightly suppressed, and that is to protect the baby in utero, so that your body, I guess in simple terms, doesn't kind of fight against the baby as well. So because of that kind of lowered immunity at times, you're more susceptible to getting some sicknesses. That's why often, and that's why we recommend things like the whooping cough vaccine, and women have the flu vaccine as well in pregnancy, and so that's why we really encourage pregnant women to protect themselves and their pēpi by getting the COVID vaccine, because of that kind of state of lowered immunity that they have when they're pregnant.
Excellent. There's a thank you here from Swala, just to say thank you for answering her question earlier.
Very well.
Now, we do have, so there is a My COVID record that is live on the Ministry of Health website. So we will get that down the bottom of the screen. So for anyone that's tuning in and you didn't know where to go, you can go to the My COVID record. You could Google that up. And once you've registered yourself and logged yourself in, you can see all your vaccination details, and you can also see where you can go and get a vaccine done. You can see where you can go and get swabbed if needed. So that's just down the bottom there. So I encourage everyone to go on and just, even if you haven't had a vaccine yet, to go on and just get into your COVID record, so you've got that there for you. And then by November, we will have certificates that can be printed out and we can use. But until then, if you're needing verification, you can get hold of the ministry and ask for a letter from the ministry to verify that you've had those 2 vaccines, particularly if you're wanting to fly back home somewhere. Then there is the link in the My COVID record to be able to ask for that letter. So yeah, just putting that out there. Now, do we have any other questions? Oh, we do. We have a tricky question. Now, this is quite interesting because this has come through the vaccination centres a lot. I've personally had this question a lot. So this is coming from Jared, just saying his partner's midwife and the family doctor have both said to wait and not have the COVID vaccine while she's pregnant. So obviously you've got this predicament.
Yes.
What advice would you give to expectant mothers that are having this advice? Because obviously you have so much trust in your midwife to bring your baby into this world, but also your family doctor, you have trust over your whole health. So yeah, what would your advice be there?
My advice to Jared and anyone else kind of in that situation is really to, you are going to get conflicting advice depending on who you go to, but it's looking at the source of the information and making sure that you're going to reliable sources with the most up-to-date information, because even for us as health professionals, it's changing quite a lot at the moment, just with now us having Delta in the country, and then now with it spreading, now that it's outside of Auckland as well, we're starting to think more about potentially what's going to happen nationwide. So for me, my first port of call are the websites like the Ministry of Health website, where the latest up-to-date information is, the immunisation advisory websites. Also, you've got your Plunket line. I know that you can call 24/7 and they will have the most up-to-date information as well. And maybe just going back to your midwife and just questioning that a bit more as to why they would think that, because is that going off potentially some older advice that was being given before, like before we had the Delta strain here in the country? and just kind of probing a bit more. And, you know, it's really about, I think, always us weighing up those, the benefits and in terms of making those decisions around when. And we know now from studies and from it's been endorsed that it's absolutely fine to have it pre-pregnancy, during pregnancy, and when you're breastfeeding. It's, you know, completely safe for yourself and for your unborn or for your newly born pēpi.
Jared has just followed it up to say that they have said that she was low risk.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And I think that's quite a hard thing now. Is although she's low risk, sometimes we're being put in situations where we don't know, you know, because of the way that Delta spreads, and that we're unsure of the situations that we're going to be in, where we are in contact with other people who are carrying COVID, or what's going to happen with the spread of the virus as well. Yeah.
Excellent. Fantastic.
Great question, Jared.
Yeah. Yeah, it comes a lot.
And I think that is such a hard thing at this time, is that people are getting conflicting advice, and it's knowing where you can go for those that up-to-date and really reliable information that's trustworthy. Can be quite difficult for people to navigate. Yeah.
Absolutely. Anything else you would like to add, Tale? Anything that's come through to the College of Midwives or to the board about COVID-19 vaccinations?
Yeah, well, I think now, you know, what we've just recently had come through is that it's going to be mandatory for midwives to be vaccinated. So they have to have their first dose by the end of October and be fully vaccinated by the start of December. And that also, what I see that as is protecting the communities that we're working with as well. It's for me, the vaccination, it's never come down to just my individual responsibility. It's kind of a collective responsibility, and that largely for me is as a Pacific person as well, in the communities that I work in and the communities that I'm, you know, kind of where I'm moving through. So it's about us doing what we can for the wider community that's going to benefit all of us in Aotearoa at this time. So that's probably one of the main things, but just really that protection that it's offering to pregnant people and to babies through the immunity from their mothers and parents, and from breastfeeding as well, that they will get just those antibodies from there.
Yeah. I mean, that sounds fantastic, because if you're breastfeeding and you're giving your baby those antibodies, they're already going to be ahead of those children that are already born, you know, 5, 6, and 7-year-olds who can't have it until they're 12, but weren't breastfeeding when mum was building up those antibodies. So those pēpi are going to be very more protected than our children that we have at the moment.
They are, and as a result are going to protect those older siblings who haven't benefited from those antibodies. So the more of us who are you know, are doing that for others, the better that kind of you know, collective immunity will be.
Definitely fantastic for those little brothers and sisters protecting their older ones. That's awesome. Yeah. No more questions are coming through. Oh yes, here we have another one from Linda. Is it important for everyone who is going to be around the baby to have the vaccine?
Good question, Linda. I think it's like what I've been saying up until now. The more people who you interact with who are protected, the better it is for you, and obviously also for baby. So yeah, I think that we are wanting to protect those who are vulnerable, and that includes babies and younger people. So if people who have been, I know I probably shouldn't bring myself personally into it, but if I had a small baby, I would feel much better about those people who are interacting with my baby and, you know, handling my baby and kissing my baby and things. If I knew that they were vaccinated, it would certainly make me feel a lot more reassured. Yeah.
Excellent. Now, Another question that's just come up is how long after you've given birth can you have your COVID vaccine if you didn't have one when you were pregnant?
So there's no wait for that. So you can have it any time throughout your pregnancy and once you've had your baby as well. There'll be no risks to you if you having that soon after you've given birth. Yeah.
Brilliant. Now, most clinics across New Zealand are walk-in vaccination clinics now, but you also still can go on to Book My Vaccine. Have a look at what clinics are up and running closest to you. So anyone 12 years and over, go on there. Again, many of the clinics are walk-in, and Super Saturday is going to probably have all of them popping up everywhere. So you can go in and get them. The only requirement is that you're over 12 for your vaccine, and it's a minimum of 3 weeks from your first if you're going for your second dose. But down the bottom there, you can see Book My Vaccine is just another place that you can go to. If you were waiting the 6 weeks and you decided, well, I'm up to 3 weeks or 4 weeks, I wanted to get it done sooner, you can go into the drop-in clinic and get it done sooner. They will cancel that next appointment for you. Or you can just go on to Book My Vaccine with your code that you were given when you first booked, and you can pop that in there and change your appointment or delete it. So quite a lot of options there to get your vaccine this weekend. I've heard there's lots of prizes up and down the country that people have been getting as incentives, which has been really cool.
Yeah, and I think you said, Kelly, before that on My COVID Record, you can also book through that as well, can you?
Absolutely. They have a link in there where you could book as well. Yeah. So there's absolutely lots of places that you can go. Yeah. Oh, yeah, and we've got the Book My Vaccine information down there on the ticker below. Now, I have another question here. So John has messaged, I have a brother in hospital and may contact COVID. He may get COVID easily. He has asked the whānau who visit to be vaccinated. Are you getting common questions like that around mums being in hospital when they have their babies?
Yeah, and I think as well, because at the moment in so many places when mums are going in to give birth, they're only allowed that one support person with them. So it's been quite protective for them, although it's in other ways been quite isolating that they can't choose who they can have there with them at their birth. But it's also quite protective because there's only that small bubble around, them and their pēpi initially. And this is probably something that's going to come up more and more as people are wondering what people's vaccination status is prior to coming to visit them and visit their babies, just because I think we're starting to realise how vulnerable our babies are, and how for all of us who are able to do our bit by getting the vaccination for that kind of collective immunity, just that how beneficial that is that we're doing our bit to do that.
Awesome. We've had a good question from John actually. What if you have a family member who refuses to get vaccinated? How do you think you would handle that?
I've had family members who've refused to be vaccinated. I think often for me as a health professional, first of all, it's a bit about unpacking why they feel resistant to get vaccinated. Is it that they don't have the information, they haven't had the access to the information that can answer their questions, or is it sometimes it's something like a fear of needles, or there can be a whole host of reasons why, but sometimes it's just allowing them to talk that through and actually talk to a health professional who is a reliable source of information and can answer those questions. And I know that even when they go along to have their vaccinations, there's people there that can talk to them about it. There's lots of resources online from reliable websites where they can see those. But it's also, I think, about us reminding each other that it's not really coming down to that individual responsibility, that it's more about what you can do to protect your wider whānau and community. Like I know last year when we had the first, the long lockdown, I was working clinically, so I was going in and out of the house every day, and because it was so new and I didn't know how susceptible I was to bringing it home. I isolated from my mother, who's in her 70s, for 6 weeks, and sent one of my children over there to isolate with her and didn't see them for that long. Whereas I think now that we have these tools that we can use to give us that added protection, but also protect those loved ones that we have, and hopefully get back to that normality that we know, where we can be interacting, where we're not having to go into lockdowns when there are cases in the community and things like that. So I think it's, if we can frame it positively and think about all of the good things that us having this collective immunity will give us as a nation, then sometimes it's just reframing it and not looking at the negatives, but actually from that strength-based approach where we look at how good things can be in the future once we have this level of immunity as a country.
Excellent. Well, time's come for us to wrap this up now. So thank you so much, Tale, for coming with all your expertise and answering those questions for us. This will be also uploaded to the Facebook page, so people, if you're wanting to come back, if you've missed a key message that Tale's given, please feel free to come back and just have a look. And again, just going on to those reputable websites for that information. But thank you, Tale, for coming in, and that's all we've got time for today.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, good. Take care. Ka kite.
Ka kite.